Hello and welcome to another edition of Bourbon and Bullets, the special New Year's Eve 2024 predictions. And well, we've got some doozies. You may not like it, but anyways, here we go. First of all, let's just look back from where we've come. 2023, it was a crazy year, no doubt about it. And it's been a crazy year on top of 3 crazy years. And 3 years where I think for a lot of us, we saw all of our worst fears come true, and with the promise of yet more to come. In Canada, Trudeau has had so many scandals. He's actually benefited from the recent scandal canceling out all the other previous scandals. Nobody can keep track anymore, so they just tune it out. It sort of goes, oh, another Trudeau scandal. What is it this time? More blackface? Oh, a top cabinet minister is being run by the CCP. Didn't we do that one already? Oh, right, that was just a selection of backbenchers. Oh, anyway, never mind. Let's just see what's on Netflix. Tell me I'm wrong. You can't, can you? Sure, it's so bad even the bought-off Canadian media have to cover it, but they also spend most of their time telling us about the scary far right and how they want to bring unfettered freedoms to Canada. I seriously know people who shudder at the thought of unfettered freedom of speech in Canada. They also want law-abiding gun owners thrown in jail because, well, guns. So what's going to change in the coming year? Maybe you're thinking, surely the craziness has to stop. There has to be some sort of course correction. To which I would say, don't call me Shirley. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Secondly, I would say, no, there won't be a course correction. Because the powers that be, who have let it be known over the last 3 years, that they are decidedly the powers that be. And they got too close to the power and control they have long craved in 2020 through 2022. And they desperately want it back, and they want it back and more. That whole Build Back Better and the new normal shtick hasn't been forgotten. It was supposed to go ahead, but thanks to a bunch of Canadian truckers, it was sidelined for the moment. That, plus, they've let the mask slip, the powers that be. So the group of growing dissenters is growing, meaning there's a diminishing window of opportunity for them. Where am I going with all this? Well, to put it simply, expect Plandemic 2.0 in 2024, the new improved version. The seeds of it were planted in late December already, when reports of a scary new pneumonia was reported in China. Most importantly, it's an illness that affects children. Bill Gates has openly lamented in the various news media that have him on as an expert that the previous pandemic mostly affected, well, I guess in that instance we can call it a pandemic, that was a severe flu that affected the elderly. And that doesn't scare people nearly as much as something that affects their kids. Sure, I knew parents who lived in terror that their kids would die of the coof if we all didn't mask 24/7. Despite even the quack doctors on TV telling them that kids statistically had a 0% chance of dying from it. But still, there were many who, while they bought into the fear porn, were never really that scared. They thought, well, we should be good little boys and girls, but at the end of the day, they did want life to go back to normal. However, make it an illness that affects the young, and look out. If you think the self-appointed Stasi during COVID were bad, wait and see how bad they are when the man on TV tells them little Billy and Jane are in fear for their lives. Yeah, sorry, but it's coming. And it's coming because they're worried about Trump. At least that's one factor. Because he's a big unknown, and they can't have that. So once we get past New Year's, the presidential election cycle will really ramp up. And there will be more challenges to Trump by states trying to keep him off the ballot, even though they know It won't stand up to any court challenge. And there will be the kangaroo court cases, which will just continue to rally support around Trump. So, after he wins Iowa, New Hampshire, and even Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina, we'll see the pandemic fear porn go into overdrive. Because that was always the last-ditch plan to stop Trump. They'll say it's too dangerous for Trump to have election rallies. And city ordinances across the country will go up, preventing him from doing so. All in the name, of course, of public safety. Then on Election Day, which is already rendered a sad joke since it's become election season with early voting starting in September, but Election Day will be deemed too dangerous for people to go to the polls in person. So ballots will be counted out over the 3 months it now takes to count elections these days. And there will be the tranches of mailed-in ballots suddenly turning up when the vote looks bad for Biden. Will they really destroy the economy again just to stop Trump? Well, you may ask that, and to that I say sorry, the economy is already destroyed. It's just kept afloat by trillions in paper money circulating the globe that everyone pretends still has value. That is, until it doesn't. Let me illustrate. In Season 3 of Rick and Morty, and I'm sorry for the pop culture reference, but it's actually kind of accurate. Rick takes down the Galactic Empire simply by switching the value of the galactic currency unit from being worth 1 of itself to being worth 0 of itself. And all of a sudden, all the bureaucrats, all the politicians, the military, and so on realize there was no gain in them preserving the regime. At that point, it was every man for himself. Grab what resources you can. That scenario is not that far-fetched. If confidence in the US dollar drops in just, say, one corner of the finance industry, then it will set off a chain reaction, the dominoes will fall, and people will mix metaphors with wild abandon. There is no intrinsic value in the greenback. Other than it represents a $30 trillion economy. But if so much of that economy is based on the finance sector and simply moving numbers around, which it is, and government jobs as opposed to productive labor, which it is, and furthermore, that productive labor is increasingly taxed and overregulated, well, then you have the recipe for a financial collapse. Is this what the aforementioned powers that be want? No, it is not. They want you attached via your smartphone to a CBDC, a central bank digital currency, that they will have total control over. Say Citibank is selling dollars, no problem, just delete them. That's a very oversimplified take on how CBDCs would work, but it's accurate nonetheless. And they'll be brought in combined with a social credit / carbon score, and that will be used to keep all of us little peons in check. Want to go on a trip? Sorry, we're going to delete some of your digital currency because you're over on your carbon score, and probably that translates into something you said on Facebook that is the real reason, because you can't have troublemakers like you and I running around in the big bad world. Anyways, am I really saying 2024 will see a financial collapse and the installation of CBDCs? Probably not the second part, the installation of CBDCs. As much as they would like to, they're not there yet in the US or Canada. We're close, but not quite. The EU might get there in 2024, and they'll use the Plandemic 2.0 to get it done. Now, as for the financial collapse, I do believe that will occur in 2024. But it depends. It will depend on how far down the road we go with the pandemic. And if it goes according to script, the economy will already be in an artificial coma. And most of us just won't notice. That is until food and goods start disappearing from store shelves and gas stations run out of fuels. Yeah, I know. I'm full of hope and light for the coming year. But here's, I suppose, one prediction that's a little more on the optimistic side. And it's one that others are predicting, but I don't see it. 2024 won't see the start of World War III. So thank God for small mercies. Oh, I guess that's more than a small mercy. And we may actually see the end of the Russia-Ukraine war, just because they're going to run out of guns and bullets to kill each other with. And people just aren't going to put up with sending money to the Ukraine. And the Democrats see that, which is why they're already pulling back on it. However, wars in the Middle East will continue. And not only will they continue, but they're going to expand. As for China, well, their economic collapse will come even sooner. And it will precipitate, likely, regime change. And that's not really a positive or a negative. It's just swapping out one communist dictator for another. Well, with those uplifting words, I will leave you for now. I'm not 100% on these predictions. I think if people stay awake enough and the planned pandemic can't quite get off the way that they would like it to, then we can go a long ways in averting the rest of the dystopian nightmare that awaits us. We will go through, I believe, a massive financial correction one way or the other. But how deep and how long the resulting recession or even depression is will depend on who's in charge. Hint, none of those currently running the show. But for my Canadian listeners, do not expect regime change in 2024. Trudeau will cling to power with the support of the Bloc, and he will enact ever more draconian laws curtailing civil liberties until he has to face the electorate in 2025, and he may even find a way to squirm out of that one. So my advice to everyone for the coming year and beyond, buy gold and silver and stock up on canned goods. Well, with that, I will wish you a happy new year as far as that goes. And until next time, this has been Bourbon and Bullets.